Well, welcome back to the Cut for Time podcast here at the Canton United Methodist Church. My name is Pastor Clay, joined by Eric Stearns, and today we're digging into Pastor Steve's message from Sunday, which was called Depend on God, or DOG. And Steve talked about how we should be aware of how our pride leads us to depend on other things that are not God, and how we can lay that baggage down at the start of the year and really live our year depending on God rather than depending on ourselves. Let's get into it.
Sounds good. So he preached out of the Book of Proverbs this week.
He did, yeah.
Which is not something we usually hear from.
Yeah.
So give me some background on the Book of Proverbs.
Yeah. So
what do you have?
Yeah. I was talking off mic with Eric that I don't know that I've ever preached out of the Book of Proverbs, but I think the Book of Proverbs is very important. When I was in college at University of Sioux Falls, one of the things I was able to do as a theology major was we had to have some kind of Old Testament elective course, and my Old Testament elective that I chose to take was on the Old Testament wisdom literature. And so during the semester, we studied through Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Song of Solomon, and Ecclesiastes. And so that's kind of my biggest part of my background on the Book of Proverbs, was just being in Dr. Higgle's class way back in the day. Also, the Book of Proverbs featured prominently when I was in seminary because our battle cry in our preaching class was iron sharpens iron. Because all our preaching class was us practicing sermons and then preaching and then being critiqued by that preaching. And as a way of not taking that personally, we took our rallying cry, iron sharpens iron, as one friend helps another. And so it was all about how we built each other up. But the Book of Proverbs, I mean, it's more than just a book of pithy sayings and a book of sayings that are, important and insightful. It's one of the commentaries that I read this week talked about how the Book of Proverbs is a collection of collections of wisdom. And so there are several authors who are represented in the Book of Proverbs. The main one that we attribute the Book of Proverbs to is Solomon. And from chapter 1 to chapter, I think the breaks around 16 or 18, that's all Solomon. It's different collections of Solomon's wisdom, but it really is all from Solomon. Proverbs chapter 1 is where we kind of get the whole premise of the book, is that this is Solomon's way of passing on his collected wisdom of life. Solomon's regarded because God, and God says, because of your faith, I'll ask for whatever you want and I'll give it to you. And Solomon says, give me the wisdom to discern between right and wrong. And God says, I'm so impressed by your answer that I'm going to give you riches and power and wealth and women and all the things too. But because you asked for wisdom, no one will surpass you in wisdom. And so Solomon is seen as this paragon of wisdom. And so to have this anthology, this collection of his wise sayings and wise thoughts is such a gift to people of faith, that we can go back and read through these collections of wisdom from Solomon, from one of the wisest people that ever lived. So that's why the Book of Proverbs is so important. But you'll see in the Book of Proverbs, it's kind of broken into sections where it talks about a collection of wisdom from Solomon, which is, a lot of it. And there's a couple of different collections within the book. And then later in the Book of Proverbs, it breaks into a section that says, these are from Solomon, but this is not what Solomon actually said. These are copied by King Hezekiah's people of what Solomon said. And then at the end, it gets into a different king named Lemuel and a different king named Agar. And then there are just parts of it that we just do not know where it came from, to be perfectly frank. There are just certain parts of it that are basically kind of like the Psalms that we just don't definitively know who wrote those things or who said those things. And so, the whole premise of the Book of Proverbs is in chapter 1, where it says the beginning of the fear of the Lord, the beginning of our awe and our reverence towards God is found in wisdom. That wisdom is the beginning of the fear of the Lord. Then it goes into Proverbs 3, which is another part of the premise of the Book of Proverbs. So Proverbs 3 says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and to lean not on your own understanding, to seek God in all ways, and He will bring blessing to your life. That's part of this whole thing, is that the quest for wisdom is what is one of the most important parts of our religious experience. It's all chronicled. I mean, that we get, iron sharpens iron. We get, the idea of the Proverbs 31 woman. We get, these, even what Steve preached on Sunday about pride going before the fall. We do get a lot of conventional wisdom of the best way to follow God from the Book of Proverbs.
So the main premise that Steve preached on was pride, and how pride can really take us down.
Yeah, definitely.
We get blinded by it.
Steve did start with a good story about a time where his group of canoers got prideful and it bit him in the butt. And I think we all have that experience. Like, I think that's why that's such a good story to use in a sermon, because we all just know what that's like.
Oh, absolutely.
We all have that experience of being, puffed up in some kind of a way, and then, thinking we have everything under control and yada, yada, yada. And then realizing, oh, no, we sure don't. Last Christmas Eve, I sang a song. So a year ago, Christmas Eve, I sang a song at the late service, and it's a song that I've known and done forever. And just, I like, it has some high notes that has a tenor that likes, to sing a little bit higher than, whatever, and taking some pride in that. And I ended up coughing through the second half of the song.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah, I had to actually, it was a track, so I couldn't have, no one was playing for me, so I couldn't make them stop so I could stop and get a drink of water. I had to just stop singing and go get a drink of water and then finish the song and kind of limp to the end of it. And as a music person, that's something that I take a lot of pride in, in performing. And when you're in worship, that's really not where your heart should be or where your mind should be. And that was definitely one of those moments of just pride coming and just biting me in the butt right there.
Similar. Completely different, but similar. As a young engineer, when you feel like you're finally starting to figure things out, and you maybe feel like you just got this project done, you go hand it to the superior to review,
Yep.
and then he comes back to you and says, this isn't even close.
Yep.
That's another one of those where you're like, yeah, pride got in the way there.
Definitely. Definitely. I had a sermon like that in Brookings. I had preached one Sunday, and it was in this period where I was still in seminary, still living in Sioux Falls, but serving in Brookings, and so I'd go up on Wednesdays and Sundays. So I preached that Sunday, and Wednesday Terry called me into her office to talk about the sermon. I was like,
oh no,
this is not gonna go well. Because I knew it wasn't the best sermon, and I didn't feel really great about it. And then she's like, that one wasn't very good. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the only thing you can do at that point is just own it and say, yep, that one wasn't very good.
So how do we handle that negative feedback in a positive way? Because I think that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Where we think we're good, we think we're doing such a great job, and then, and we're just naturally prideful, and, we want to do well.
Sure. Yeah.
Criticism is really hard to take.
Right.
How do we handle that?
I just think that that is an opportunity for there to be grace. That's an opportunity to be gracious with ourselves. And actually it kind of ties back to the Book of Proverbs, what I mentioned earlier, iron sharpens iron. When we get criticism and feedback from people that have our best interests at heart, I think it's easier for us to say, okay, I need to learn something from this. And that's not a bad thing. I think that sometimes failure can be a great teacher, and pride coming and kicking our butt, knocking us down a peg can, be that voice of wisdom and that voice of tempering our pride, and helping us to remember that we are not necessarily an island, that we can and should ask for help if we're, in over our heads. And how we make that a positive thing is to remember that the person wants the best from us and for us, and has highlighted how we have not done our best, and we can and will do better in the future. Kind of the idea of, fall down 7 times, get up 8.
Right. Well, and God puts people in our lives, but for a reason. I mean, those people are there to help us, and it's okay to rely on them.
Yeah.
We were talking about this too, how especially as Midwesterners,
Yes.
We're not good at relying on others.
No.
We're not good at taking, we take pride in being able to do things on our own and not ask for help.
Right.
I am terrible about that.
Same.
And
Yep.
what we need to realize is it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to be supported,
Yeah.
to accept support. So one of the lines that Steve had in his sermon was on whether pride is a virtue or a vice. So really a good thing or a bad thing.
Right. Yeah.
And that got me thinking, because Steve spent a lot of time on how pride can be a bad thing. But I was also thinking about how pride can really be a good thing too.
Yeah.
And it's okay to take pride in things.
Yeah. It's okay to be proud of
Yes.
our, of our accomplishments, proud of our, we're two dads sitting here. It's okay to be proud of our kids when they do something that we didn't think that they could do or would excel at. There are ways that pride can be expressed in a way that is positive and helpful. The challenge and the tension is that it can't get twisted. Yeah. So Eric, what are some of those things that you have pride in that, are healthy and appropriate things for us to put our pride in?
Things that I am proud of. Well, family is always, my kids, my wife. Being a part of the Stearns family, I'm proud
Sure.
of that. We come from a very strong Christian background, and I draw a lot from my experiences growing up in that type of a family, or still, and being a part of that type of family. You think about, okay, how would this person, react to this? And, it helps you in a lot of ways, just helps you make decisions.
Yeah.
Being a part of a family like that. I'm proud of being from South Dakota, in that we tend to just do things on our own, which I think we can be proud of. And also sometimes it's probably not a good thing.
Right. Yeah. That would definitely be the time where it could get definitely twisted. And we've watched that happen for people before.
Yes. I've always been proud to be a part of this church. We've talked about this in the past. We always go outside of this building and reach out to others. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's really hard not to focus on, to not twist those
definitely.
things.
Yes.
You always spend your time, you nurture the things that you're proud of, right? So you're always working on those. It's easy to work on those things. It's, because what you're proud of is probably what you're strong at. But then again, you can't take your full identity from those things that you're proud of. You can't worship the things that you're proud of.
Yep. Yep.
The church, you think about the church. The church is a place to worship Jesus. The functions of the church aren't the most important thing about this place.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes we probably get too tied up in that. What are you proud of?
Being in the same, place as you, I would echo. I'm proud of my wife. She is a teacher here in the Canton School District and does a great job, and was genuinely missed by her students when she was on maternity leave, and I think that speaks to her abilities as a teacher. I'm proud of my kids. We were having a conversation with our preschool teacher a couple weeks ago, and Auden had just had this stellar day in preschool, and I was just so proud of how much he's learned in the last 2 years or a year and a half of being in preschool. I'm a proud United Methodist. I'm a cradle Methodist and take that very seriously. Sometimes the denomination does things that I'm not necessarily as proud of, but I'm proud to serve in a denomination that takes care of pastors the way that we do. In 3 appointments, I've served 5 great churches. I was in Brookings and then a 3-point charge, and then here. I'm proud of the work of the United Methodist Church. I'm proud that we have a service organization as a part of our denomination. I'm proud of a lot of our theology and how we've, been inclusive of others. And sometimes that can be problematic too. But those are things I'm proud of. My musical abilities. I'm able to. That unlocks certain things for me in ministry.
So I think, those 2 lists, there are plenty of things that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be proud of those things.
So how do you think things get so twisted?
But really, doesn't it get twisted when we lose focus on what's important?
Yeah.
We spend so much time focused on the earthly things that we are a part of and make our self-worth in how successful those things are.
Yeah.
And those become the things that we serve. Whereas doing well in those things is good, but it still isn't
Right.
the end goal.
Yeah. Being in music, like, it's one thing for me to learn a song and sing it well. I can take pride in the fact that I can learn how to sing a song and sing it well. It's even better to be able to learn a song, sing it well, and let others come alongside of it too, come along with it too, so that we all experience the glory of God in the midst of all of it.
Right.
I think that pride becomes problematic when we, when we get to that point of, I did this and I'm the best at this and I'm good at this and I'm, rather than realizing that it's our God-given talents and abilities that allow us to be proud of most of the things that we're proud of. The way that we don't let pride get in the way is that we learn to be reliant on God.
Right.
It's our God-given gifts and talents that make us successful at the things that we're successful at. And, our inability to ask for help is overcome when we realize that it's God anyway.
But yeah, I mean, so the title of the sermon is Depend on God, and our pride gets in the way of us doing that all the time.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we are just so convinced that we can figure things. Like, I am the master of going to God in prayer and saying, okay, God, I need you to deal with this because I do not know how. I am really good at laying it down at God's feet and then just saying, okay, but oops, I need this back. I really need to work on this. Like, this has to be, I can come up with a solution to this on my own, apart from, the wisdom of God being my guide and really letting that go.
So in other podcasts, we talk about how just praying isn't enough. You need to pray and then do, right? So in tying that into what you just said,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you pray and do, but also be patient enough to wait for God's wisdom to lead you?
Right.
How do you do that?
I think there is a lot of timing involved with that. I think that it is a matter of constantly checking in with God for what the right next step is, of doing the next right thing, as my Frozen 2 friends would say.
I was just going to say.
Yep, definitely. That is
Channeling your inner Anna.
channeling, yes, definitely. But no, like, I think that it is a gradual process, and like, I think it begins with a prayer of submission. It begins with a prayer saying, God, I think I know how I want to do this, but how you want to do this is way more important. And then if you feel like you're butting up against something as you're doing, going back to prayer and saying, okay, am I with you, or am I doing things my way because I want to do them my way? I just think that it is such a constant cycle, a constant repositioning of ourselves and ensuring that God is with us every step of the way by going to God in prayer. The order of things is the important part. That we really do seek the heart of God. Not just that God would baptize our plan, but that God would truly show us the way to go in a certain instance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you pray and you just sit idle, then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to pray, act, and then just have that constant feedback loop of reviewing with God what was done,
Yeah.
and being okay with not being prideful and just keeping down the same path because that's the path you chose.
Right.
But to constantly look back and reflect on what's been accomplished or what you've done, and to make sure that that's still the right decision.
Right. Yeah, definitely. definitely.
And sometimes we get so prideful in saying, "Oh, I made this decision. I'm not changing now, and this is the way we've always done it. We've done it this
Right.
way for 30 years, or whatever that might
Yep.
be." But being okay with, no, this isn't how we're going to do this anymore. You know,
Right. Yeah, like change for the sake of change does absolutely nothing for me, but change because you feel a movement of the spirit, or change because God reveals something to you in prayer, God lays something on your heart in prayer that then lead to a difficult conversation, and maybe to change. I'm all about that. I'm all about seeking the heart and will of God in order to know what to do next.
right.
So,
Well, and going down a single path forever, and then everything else is changing around you, you can't just stay in the same
No.
path. Like that path has to change because the situation isn't the same anymore.
yep.
And then you're just your pride gets in the way of productivity at that point.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Productivity or faithfulness, or I'm reminded of a book James Harnish wrote a while back. It was called "All You Have to Do Is Die." Sometimes we have to let a certain idea go. All we have to do is die, and all we have to do is die. Let our pride die, to allow God to really truly work through us, and just watch what happens next.
yep. It's not easy.
No. Like a lot of things in faith, no, it's not. Because, again, upper Midwesterners, we are very, this is what I was raised doing and how I was taught how to do it, and that's how we're going to do it. And if that's not right, then it's wrong. And, we don't like to be told anything.
No, we sure don't. We also don't like to ask for help.
Nope.
So what's next week?
Yeah, so next week, Steve is continuing this sermon series. His sermon title is called "The Hiking Partner," and it's talking about Psalm 23 is his focus text, and very familiar and famous psalm of letting God lead and letting God be our hiking partner, and just a constant reminder that God is with us in the midst of all things. And so I think that'll be where Steve takes that. Interesting to see how the conversation unfolds.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us again on this week's Cut for Time podcast. I apologize for the brief hiatus we had last week. And join us again on Sunday, online or in person at the church, and then back here again next week.
Thanks for listening to our Cut for Time conversation. Join us for worship in person or on Facebook Live Sundays at 10 o'clock Central Time. And now go in peace and serve the Lord.